Okay, because the Epstein stuff is in the news, we can't get away from it. We can't get out of the news. I've elaborated my thoughts on it, but I think we should talk again about the deep state or the swamp or the blob or the system or whatever word you want to use for it. Obviously, you know generally what it is. I know generally what it is, but I think it's helpful for you and I to break it down and discuss the who, what, when, where, and why. What happened? So, on a very macro level, before we get to any specifics, understand that this is what happens to pretty much every single major country in history. And when I say this is what I mean. The government, whatever form of government it is, it could be a monarchy, right? Whatever form of government it is, it grows. It grows. It is, a lot of this is human nature. You see, you, me, we like having control. We like having power, if we're being honest. I'm not saying you have a lot or I have a lot, but whatever kind of power we have, we enjoy it. We like to control, and we wouldn't mind more. Would you like to get a little promotion at work? Be in charge of a couple? Of course. It's human nature. Government works the same way because government is made up of people, flesh and blood people, just like you and me. And people who work inside of government will, over a period of time, figure out how to acquire for themselves more power. The problem with government power growing is they have at least some authority over you and me. You know, if you get power hungry at your job, you're knifing people in the back to become assistant manager, that's bad. I'm not cheering for you, but it doesn't affect me. That's your problem and the people you work with. If the government does, then we're all in trouble. So over a long period of time, remember, this didn't happen yesterday, didn't start under Biden, even Obama, who made everything worse, didn't start under him. Over a period of time, the government figured out, I want more power. I should have more power. How do I get more power? They have the same goals you have: promotion, more power, more influence. And over years and years and years, our federal bureaucracies began to accumulate power. Everyone thinks FBI when I say that, and that's definitely true, but it's not just them. Central Intelligence Agency, IRS, EPA, NEA, you name it, on and on and on and on and on it goes. Education Department, I said NEA. Education Department. Pick your bureaucracy. It could be a small one that you don't think about, have ever heard of. The people inside of it want more power. But again, this brings me back to the point I was making. If you're power hungry, it doesn't affect me. If the Central Intelligence Agency is power hungry, it does. Now, over that same period of time, as our federal bureaucracy began to grow in size and strength, something else happened. Other parts of our system, our system of government, other parts of our system began to be infected with the exact same sick religion, and they figured out, hey, I realize I'm a judge, I'm a U.S. attorney, I'm something like that. I realize that my role probably should be to keep the FBI in check. You know, not just the FBI, to be a check on the other parts, but what if we just work together instead? I'll work with you, I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back. We both gain more power and influence. And what it's created is a very, very corrupt criminal system where the judges are in on it, the attorneys are in on it, FBI's in on it, CIA's in on it. I mean, look at this. I mean, for instance, the Epstein stuff's in the news. You know who the lead prosecutor was for the Epstein stuff? Comey's daughter, James Comey's daughter. We didn't talk a lot about it because I don't do celebrity news here on the show, but you know the Diddy stuff, the rapper Diddy. He was on trial for all these things. Guess who lucked out and got that case? Comey's daughter. Maureen is her name, but Comey's daughter. Which is, man, what a tangled web that is, being as how James Comey is the former very corrupt head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and now regularly appears on television saying things like this.
I know Republicans these days aren't big in thinking about principle or precedent. They're going to be deeply sorry that that disappears, because someday there will be a Democratic president and there'll be investigations of Republican office holders. If I'm them, I sure would want these career people in place, making sure that it's done in the right way. Look, I've long thought that you could shrink the size of some of the Department of Justice headquarters units, but this is like burning down the house and then standing in front of the pile of ashes and saying, yeah, we really did need to retile the guest bath, right? This is destroying the place at a cost that's going to take years and years to rebuild.
I know what you were screaming at the television set as you heard James Comey say, well, one day a Democrat may investigate Republicans. I already know what you were saying. It's the same thing I was saying. You people just did that. You did that. I mean, you remember what John Durham said about Comey in particular. Here was John Durham.
Mr. Durham, in the summer of 2016, did our government receive intelligence that suggested Secretary Clinton had approved a plan to tie President Trump to Russia?
Yes.
Was that intelligence important enough for Director Brennan to go brief the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, the Attorney General of the United States, and the Director of the FBI?
Yes.
And was that intelligence put then into a memorandum, a referral memorandum?
Yes.
And was that memorandum then given to Director Comey and Agent Strzok?
That's who it was addressed to, yes.
Did he share it with the agents on the case, working the Crossfire Hurricane case?
No. We interviewed the first supervisor of the Crossfire investigation, the operational person. We showed him the intelligence information. He indicated he had never seen it before. He immediately became emotional, got up and left the room with his lawyer, spent some time in the hallway, came back.
He was ticked off, wasn't he?
Yes.
He was ticked off because this is something he should have had as an agent on the case. It's important information that the director of the FBI kept from the people doing the investigation.
The information was kept from him.
So I know what you're saying. James Comey's corrupt. James Comey used his role as FBI director against Republicans. Why would he go? How could he go on TV and say one day a Democrat might do this? Well, this is the thing about the deep state or the system or whatever. It speaks with one voice. It pulls and pushes in one direction, and it believes it should. The only true enemy of the deep state, it's not China or Russia or despair, depression, economic collapse. The deep state doesn't care about any of those things. Anybody who may push back against it is considered an enemy of it and should be destroyed. You realize that people like James Comey, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Lisa Monaco, Anita Dunn, I mean, take your pick, Christopher Wray, they genuinely believe if you could hook them up to a lie detector test, that government should only work for Democrats. That things like the FBI, they should focus on going after Republicans. After all, we're the deep state. We can't abide enemies in our midst. That's their mentality. And that's why they've operated the way they've operated with you, with me, with Donald Trump. I want to look back on something because it really, really shows how nefarious it was. You see, Democrats, they came up with a message, a theme, when it came to Donald Trump. This goes way back to his first campaign. Donald Trump works with Russia. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, they're buddies. They're working together. Donald Trump he's Putin's stooge. Donald Trump's in Putin's pocket. It was a theme, steady, over and over and over again. Trump, Putin, Trump, Putin, Trump, Putin. Very clearly a campaign label. It didn't really have any basis in fact at all, but that didn't matter at all. They were labeling their political opponent. Okay, that's one thing. That's how politics go. Democrats are going to lie about that stuff. Republicans will throw them the other direction. I can deal with that. You can deal with that. We're all grown-ups here. But when the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, when he starts talking that way, it may raise your eyebrows.
The intelligence community's consensus is that Russia continues to try to influence our elections, primarily through what we would call malign foreign influence. But we certainly have seen very active efforts by the Russians to influence our election in 2020 through what I would call more the malign foreign influence side of things. Social media, use of proxies, state media, online journals, et cetera, in effort to both sow divisiveness and discord. And I think the intelligence community has assessed this publicly, primarily to denigrate Vice President Biden.
That's weird how the FBI, they dug into it and they found out all those Democrat talking points, they're all true. And while Christopher Wray was giving that testimony, he knew that Russia wasn't a major player in any way. And he also knew that China had hatched a scheme to steal the 2020 election. Fake driver's licenses, not one or two, lots and lots of them. They had hatched a scheme to steal the 2020 election so Donald Trump could get kicked out of the White House and they could get notoriously Chinese-tied Joe Biden into the White House. China hatched a scheme. Now, maybe you're sitting there wondering, well, was it successful? I don't know. And do you know why I don't know? Because as soon as the FBI's people in charge found out about this alleged scheme, they shut down the investigation. You, me, we'll never know about that pesky 2020 election. The FBI refused to investigate it, all while lying to you about Russia. It doesn't get more deep state than that. And before we go and start talking to our amazing guests tonight, we have James O'Keefe, we have so many people here. Let's not forget about maybe the most egregious abuse of FBI power I can think of, and that's really saying a lot for an evil organization. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, before the 2020 election, took possession of a laptop, Hunter Biden's laptop. They saw it. They knew the felonies, the crimes that were on it. They buried it, tried to hide it. They were just going to let it go, just like they did with that Chinese hacking stuff. But it got out. They got word it was about to get out, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation went to social media companies and told them to censor the story because it was those dirty Russians lying again. That alone should have ended the FBI completely, forever. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am most definitely right.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.